I read to my brother Joshua every day, and sometimes stuff comes up and the power will be out and the phones won't be working and stuff like that. So I'm going to start recording him videos on here. So when you hear me refer to Joshua and ask him if he's still listening and so on, you'll know what's going on. But anybody can watch these. So we're going to start with God makes the world. Alright. Many, many years ago there was no world. There was nothing but God. No birds sang, no sun shone, no flowers bloomed. No children played, it was as black as midnight everywhere. Then God began making the world a beautiful place for everyone to live in. Let there be light, God said. The world became bright. God made the bright sunshine to shine during the day. He made the yellow moon and the bright stars to glow at night. Creation is the name we give to the time when God formed the world. After God made day and night, the heavy clouds still hung above. God said, I will gather the waters together and cause dry land to appear. He called the dry places earth. He called the water the sea. God saw that the world he was making was good, but he wanted it to become more beautiful. He said, let the earth bring forth grass and trees. Let the trees have fruit on them. God was pleased with the plants. The grass was green, flowers bloomed, and fruit hung from the trees. God must have said, the air will be a good place for living things too. He made many birds. Some were red, some were blue, and some were yellow. The birds flew through the air, sang their songs, and built their nest in the trees. God decided to put living creatures in the water. He made big fish and little fish to swim about and live in the water. But there were still no animals. Now the earth needs animals on it, God must have said. He made the cattle and every other animal. The animals walked over the earth. They ate the grass and enjoyed the sunshine. Now it says the first man and woman. God was very pleased with all he had created. Everything was beautiful. However, God's work was not yet finished. In God's great plan, there remained one special creation, different from all other living creatures. So God said, let us make a man, let us make him in our own image, after our likeness, to rule over the earth and all the living creatures in it. So God took some dust from the earth and made a man. He named him Adam. Then God placed Adam in a beautiful garden, the Garden of Eden. God placed many beautiful flowers and trees in the garden. Their fruit was good to eat. In the middle of the garden grew the tree of knowledge. God told Adam that he could eat the fruit of any tree in the garden, but that he could not eat any of the fruit from the tree of knowledge. For if he did, he would surely die. Adam was very happy and loved God very much. But before long, Adam became lonely. He needed a wife. God saw that this loneliness was not good for man. So one day he caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep. Then taking one of Adam's ribs, God made a woman. He named her Eve. Adam and Eve were very happy. They loved God and God loved them. Then God looked at his world again and saw that it was perfect. The earth had plants and animals and people. The sea had fish in it, and birds filled the air. God was pleased and happy. Then God rested. Adam and Eve disobeyed God. Make sure we're still recording. One day while Eve was walking in the Garden of Eden, she passed the tree of knowledge. An evil serpent in the tree spoke to her. Eve, tell me, can you eat fruit from every tree in the garden? Eve said to the serpent, we may eat the fruit of any tree except this tree. For God says if we eat from the tree of knowledge, we will surely die. To this the sly serpent said, no, you will not die. God does not want you to eat this fruit only because it will make you like God himself, knowing good from evil. The evil serpent could see that Eve was confused, so he tempted her even more. "Take a bite, Eve. See how good it tastes." Eve did not want to make the serpent angry, so she took a bite and found that indeed it was very good. She ran to Adam, saying, "Adam, taste this fruit. It is very good." Adam then tasted the fruit. Suddenly things seemed different. They realized that they were naked, and they were ashamed. They tried to hide themselves deep in the garden, but God saw them and called to them, "Adam and Eve, you have disobeyed me by eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge." God then told Adam and Eve that because of their sin they must leave the beautiful Garden of Eden. From that day on, they would have to earn their food by working very hard for it. Worst of all, he told Adam and Eve that because of them, man would not live forever and would die like all other creatures. God also punished the evil serpent for tempting them. He made him crawl on his belly in the dust forever. Now this next one is the first two brothers. I usually read the hymn for about 25-30 minutes. We'll probably try this one at 20 and see how it works. Here in a little bit I will check in and make sure he can hear me. Adam and Eve had a son who was called Cain. Later they had a second son called Abel. When the two sons grew up, Abel was a shepherd and Cain was a farmer. One day Cain and Abel went to make an altar and offer gifts to God. Abel brought gifts from his flock. God was pleased with his offering. But when Cain brought some of the things he had grown, God was not pleased. Cain knew that God was not pleased with his gift. Cain was very angry. One day when he and Abel were out in a lonely field together, Cain killed his brother. Then he heard the voice of God saying to him, "Where is your brother, Abel?" He was frightened and answered, "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" Then God said, "Cain, you killed your brother. From now on I will make you a wanderer, fleeing from all men. You will always have a hard time growing food to eat." Cain said to God, "My punishment is too much for me. You have driven me out from my people. Everyone who sees me will do his best to kill me." God felt sorry for Cain. God said to Cain, "No one will harm you." And then he placed his own mark on Cain's body, so that whoever saw him would know that he was under God's protection. Cain and his wife then took all they had and moved the long way to the land of Nod, sometimes called the land of wandering. Sorry, it's been an ordeal to try to get this going tonight. It had been a long time since God had made the world and everything living upon it. There were many people on the earth, but they did not love God or obey him. God saw them do many things that were wrong. God said, "I will destroy everything that I made." But there was one man who loved God. He and his family obeyed God. This man was Noah. Noah always tried to do what God wanted him to do. God spoke to Noah one day and said, "Noah, I'm going to destroy all people on earth. I will send rain for 40 days and nights. All the earth will be covered with water. But Noah, because you love me and try to obey me, I will not destroy you and your family." Then God said, "I want you to build an ark. You must build it like I tell you. Before it begins to rain, take your wife and your 3 sons and their wives into this houseboat. I also want you to take 2 of some kinds of birds and animals into the ark. Take 7 pairs of animals and birds which men use most. You must also take plenty of food for all the people and animals." God gave Noah the exact measurements that he should use when building the ark. Noah went to work at once. He followed the plan God had given him. When the people who lived nearby saw Noah and his sons building the ark, they laughed. "Look at Noah. Isn't he silly to build such a big boat on dry land?" they said to one another as they watched. It took a long time to finish, but Noah and his sons worked and worked. At last the big houseboat was ready. It was very long and 3 stories high. There was room for Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives. There was also room for all the animals and the birds that God had told Noah to take into the ark with him. Then one day the sky grew very dark. God told Noah that it was time to go into the ark. Noah did as he was told. He and his family went into the ark. They let all the birds and animals into the ark as God had asked. When they were all safely inside, God shut the door of the big houseboat. You still with me? Okay. The flood. After Noah and his family and all the birds and animals were safely inside the ark, they waited for God to keep his promise. For 7 days they waited. Then, as God had said, the floods began. The rain began to fall, drop, drop, drop. It rained and rained and rained. For 40 days and 40 nights water began to cover the grass. Then the small trees were swallowed up in the floods. The animals and creatures that God had put upon the earth all died. Soon the houses and the towns and the villages disappeared under the water. There was no hope for the people who lived in them. There was no place for them to go. Still the floods came. Even the highest mountain and the tallest trees were covered with water. The whole earth looked like the ocean. The ark floated on top of the water. God was taking care of Noah just as he had promised he would. Inside, Noah and his family were tossed about, but they were not afraid because they knew that God was with them. At last the rain stopped, but Noah had to stay in the ark for many more days until the water had gone down. The winds began to blow and dry up the water. The warm sun began to shine. The water was lower and lower each day. Finally, the ark came to rest on top of Mount Ararat. Noah opened the window of the ark and he sent out a raven to see if the water had dried up. He also sent out a dove. When the dove came back, Noah knew that he must stay in the ark a little longer. 7 days later, Noah sent out a dove again, but it did not return at once. All day, Noah and his family waited for the dove to come back. When it was evening, the dove flew back with a leafy branch in its beak. Noah knew that the trees were appearing and that the land would soon be dry. The next time Noah sent out the dove, it did not return at all because it had found dry land at last. Noah opened the door of the ark when he heard God saying, "Noah, take your wife, your sons and their wives, and all the birds and animals out of the ark. Your family will be the first of a new generation. The children of your sons will have children, and their children will have children also." It was a happy day for Noah and his family. How glad they were to be on dry land again. Now, the rainbow promise. Noah and his family were very happy to leave the boat, where they had lived for so long. It was good to see the sun again. After Noah had released the animals, he said to his family, "God has been very good to us. Before we do anything for ourselves, let us thank him for keeping us safe and dry during the long days when the earth was covered with water." Noah and his family gathered stones and built an altar so they could worship and praise God. God was pleased when he saw Noah and his family giving thanks. God said to Noah, "I will never again destroy the earth with water. Look at the clouds. I have placed my rainbow there as a sign. Each time you see the rainbow, it reminds you of my promise. From now on, as long as the earth remains, there will be summer and winter. There will be day and night. There will be a time to sow seed and a time to harvest the crops." Noah looked at the sky. God had sent a beautiful rainbow there. It shone in shades of red and orange, yellow and green and blue, indigo and deep violet. It was a sign of God's promise. Now, this next one says Abram and Lot make a choice. In Ur, the city by the beautiful Euphrates River, there lived a family. Hold on. Terah was the father, and his 3 sons were Abram, Nor, and Haran. Haran had a son whose name was Lot. One day God told Abram to get ready for a long journey. Move away from this country and go to a land that I will show you. I will make you to be the beginning of a great nation. I will bless you and make your name famous. Abram and his family packed their things and set out. They did not know the road or the name of the country to which God was taking them, but they knew God would keep his promise. They traveled north to a place called Haran. Then God told them to travel west and south until they came to the land of Canaan. The Canaanites were living in the land, but God made Abram a promise. I'm going to give all this land to your children and to your children's children. They traveled on to a place called Bethel, where Abram built an altar for a place to pray to God. By this time, Abram had become a very rich man. He had many, many cattle and sheep, oxen and camels. He had treasures of silver and gold. Lot was a rich man too. His flocks and herds were very large. Abram and Lot needed plenty of pasture land for all their animals. They soon found that they were too crowded on the land around the mountains near Bethel. Lot's shepherds and Abram's shepherds quarreled over the pasture lands and the water. Abram called his nephew Lot to his tent. Let's not have any fight between our men or between you and me. Look, there is land before you. Choose which section you want and take your men and your herds and go your way. You may have first choice. I choose the plain country, Lot decided. So Abram stayed in the hill country, and Lot and his people moved away to the green valley toward Sodom. Are you still with me? Okay. My phone's getting ready to die, so if it goes dead, we'll have to talk later, okay? After Lot and his people moved away, Abram, who still had no children, heard God speaking. Abram, I am the Almighty God. Stay close to me and be a perfect man. You are going to be the father of many nations. No longer will your name be Abram, high father, but Abraham, father of many. Your wife Sarah will have a son. Abraham laughed. I am 99 years old. Sarah is 90. How can we have children? You will have a child, and you are to name him Isaac, and I will keep my promise with him. God did keep his promise. Sarah held her own baby in her arms. Abraham and Sarah named the baby Isaac. The name meant laughter. God has made me laugh, said Sarah. Everyone who hears this will laugh with me. Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would have a baby? The home was happy because of the baby. When Isaac was old enough to eat with the grown-ups, his father gave a great feast, and all the household celebrated.